I'd like to call this meeting to order for the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors for February 14, 2023. Roll call, please.
Hall. Here. Little.
Here.
Schwartz. Trelka.
Here.
Leyland.
Here. Would everyone please join us for a moment of silence to reflect on our actions today? Thank you. Would you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 1 is the agenda received as proposed or
So
amended.
moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say
Linda, I'd like to amend 9A and table it.
Oh, all right. Is that all right with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. So the agenda is received as amended. Was fine. Works for everyone? Okay. James. Public comments. Is there anyone in the audience today that would like to speak on a comment on anything that's not on today's agenda? Please step to the podium and give your name and address. Thank you.
Yes, Forrest Dillevue, 1725 Huntington Road, Blackhawk County resident for 80-plus years. I got a concern with some business that will be coming before you very soon, the consolidated dispatch system. I am 100% in favor of the consolidated dispatch system. However, the funding for that system, which every citizen in the county of Blackhawk pays, we already pay for a dispatch system. Now, I understand that the city leaders would love to create a new tax, have you create a new tax to tax the residents additionally to pay for this system. I think that is wrong. You folks are public servants for the people of Blackhawk County, and I think you need to think of us as you think about this funding. We are already paying it. We don't need a double tax. The city of Waterloo, when they are asked about funding, they need funding. Everybody needs funding. You folks do. Everybody does. Even I do. And when asked to take funding out of the TIFs, they say, no, we don't want to take funding out of the TIFs. And their favorite words are, if we take money out of the TIF, the county gets part of it and the school gets part of it. We get it all. Let us keep it all in the TIF. That is not just for the taxpayers of Blackhawk County. I just beg with you and plead with you, do not give us another tax to pay for this funding. However, do move forward with having a centralized dispatch. It's a wonderful thing. I think it can, in the long term, save the taxpayers some money because we don't have to duplicate things. Any questions for me?
No?
Thank you
very
kindly and
much.
have a lovely day.
Thanks, Forrest.
Thank you. You as well. Anyone else that wants to speak in public comments? Anyone on Zoom? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to claims and payments. Resolution that the Board of Supervisors approve expenditures and the county auditor be authorized and directed to issue checks.
So moved. Second.
Good morning, Board. We don't have many unusual payments today. Our total for today is $410,926.46, and we are paying $2,672.47 from the Sheriff's 6040 Fund. And I think everything appears to be in order.
Okay, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. This is a resolution. Please answer as your name is called.
Hall. Yes. Little.
Yes.
Schwartz. Yes. Trelka.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item 4, receive project updates from department heads and elected officials. Excuse me.
Morning, Board. Ryan Brennan, Assistant County Engineer. Yesterday and also today, we have had the graders out, trying to touch up some of the rough spots on the gravel roads. Other crews have been cutting brush and just preparing for some potential for weather later this week.
Thank you.
I had some deliveries in the past few days, and the gravel roads in Blackhawk County are superior to the gravel roads in some of the other counties that I traveled in.
That's good to hear.
The paved roads too, you generally don't need a county marker to tell when you're leaving the county and into another county from Blackhawk, because the roads get worse.
Good morning, Board.
morning.
Mike Hendrickson, Director of County Conservation. Just a very quick update on the Cedar Valley Nature Trail. If you weren't aware of it, the Taylor construction is moving at a very rapid pace with Phase 1 of Division 1. And remember, that were the 3 structures, the bridge over Mud Creek and 2 culverts. The bridge has been removed. They are, as we speak, excavating the pier and abutment area. They plan on driving pilings for the bridge on Thursday. They hope to be done with that in a day, and they'll start pouring the abutments. One of the culverts has already been replaced, and we're just waiting on seeding for that, better weather. The other culvert was a big box culvert, so to speak, with wing walls that were very dilapidated. The wing walls have been poured. They're pouring the floor. They're going to be pouring the wing walls. So they are moving at a very rapid pace. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. We'll be looking at Phase 2 of Division 1 very quickly, and that would be the paving and erosion control. So that project is moving forward. And again, we have ARPA dollars in that along with Destination Iowa money. So that project is moving.
Yeah, good
Thank you.
progress.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone on Zoom? Elected officials or department heads that would like to give an update? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Excuse me. Minutes approved for February 7 and February 9.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. There is a hearing later today regarding the rezone request of Dr. Brad Boswell. Consent agenda. The following items are acted upon about a single resolution.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. If there are no items anyone wishes to discuss, please answer as your name is called.
Little.
Yes.
Schwartz. Yes. Trelka.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item 8, contracts and agreements. Resolution that the lowest reasonable bid received from Vogel Traffic Services, Orange City, Iowa, for project L7623, fiscal year 2023 pavement markings in various locations of Blackhawk County with a total bid of $189,389.36. The engineer's estimate was $182,896.92, and direct the chair to sign resolution authorizing the county engineer to sign the contract and to receive and place on file the contractor's bond and certificate of insurance as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, engineer.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Ryan?
This is just, again, one of our yearly maintenance projects for the roadways, just restriping a portion of the paved road system. This is one of, I believe, 4 bids that we received. This was the lowest bid. We're just asking you guys to approve today.
And did this include switching them to the wider markings for most of these? Or?
Some of ours, so the ones that do existing have 6-inch pavement markings, we are maintaining those as the 6-inch. The ones that are currently 4-inch are going to continue as the 4-inch
Okay.
markings.
Is there a reason? Just out of curiosity.
Some of it does come down to funding. With a lot of roads to stripe, it's just a balance between picking certain routes where the improvement in the wider markings are more justified or just better served. Some of our lower traffic levels roadways just don't see as many, say, run off the road incidents that might justify the extra expense.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ryan? Okay. This is a resolution. Please answer as your name is called.
Schwartz. Yes. Trelka.
Yes.
Hall. Yes. Little.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item 9, other business. We'll move into motion that the 2022 Blackhawk County wage listing be received and placed on file, and to direct the county auditor to publish in the Waterloo Courier.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The time is 9:10, and we will enter the hearing on proposed ordinance number 77-276, the Boswell rezone. Is there a motion to receive and place on file?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 2, motion to waive the first reading as notice was published on February 3rd, 2023 in the Waterloo Courier in accordance with requirements of the Code of Iowa, and publication was approved.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 3, motion to close the hearing as oral and written comments were received and placed on file.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Jameson, were there any written comments?
There was one email that Chairman Leyland printed out. I believe it went to all the board members from Carol Cornelius in opposition to the zoning change. I can read it if you need me to, but that's.
We all received it. I don't know. Yeah, okay. At this point, thank you very much. All right, Seth, please.
Okay, all right. Yeah, this is a request at east of 6225 Ford Road, the Boswell rezone. It was a request to rezone 4.0 acres from A agricultural district to AR agricultural residential district in order to construct 2 new single-family homes. It was moved by Bozier and seconded by AG to deny the request by Dr. Boswell to rezone 4.0 acres in order to construct 2 new single-family homes at east of 6225 Ford Road. The request was unanimously denied. The one parcel containing the 4.0 acres, the proposed rezone area has been zoned to agricultural district since the adoption of the zoning ordinance in 1982. Surrounding area consisted of agricultural lands with some rural homes in the zoned agricultural district to the north and south. Land to the east is zoned A agricultural district, AR agricultural district. Residential suburban district, lane to the west is zoned agricultural district, and AL agricultural limited district. Rezone area is designated as agricultural in the future land use map, a component of the Blackhawk County Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Land to the north-south is designated as agricultural. Land to the west is designated as parks and open space, and land to the east is designated as agricultural and residential. None of the rezone areas located in a special flood hazard area. Site has a land evaluation score of 63 and lease score of 225, indicating moderate agricultural value. Applicant wishes to rezone 4.0 acres from A to AR in order to construct 2 new single-family homes. The parcel is large enough to accommodate 2 developable lots that will meet the size requirements for the AR being greater than 1.5 acre size and wider than 150 feet. Should be noted there were 3 rezone requests that were approved in the last 5 years along Waverly Road, north of west Mount Vernon Road. In addition, these properties are only located about 3,300 feet to the east of the 3 proposed rezone areas. Proposed rezone areas designated as Zone C within the Blackhawk County Waterloo Airport Land Use and Height Overlay Review Area. The maximum height allowed for a single-family home is 35 feet, and the elevation of the site is 900 feet. Total height for the site is 935 feet or 388 feet, less than the allowable height of 1,320 feet. In addition, no impacts are anticipated regarding the proposed land use and the building height of a single-family home. At the previous meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended to unanimously deny the Dr. Boswell rezone request to rezone 6.0 acres from A to AR in order to construct 3 new single-family homes. At the regular meeting on November 15th, the Board of Supervisors took no action or reprimanded the request. At the regular meeting on December 13th, 2022, the request is different because the applicant's only requesting to rezone 4.0 acres in order to only construct 2 homes. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended denial of the request to rezone 4 acres from A to AR at the regular meeting on January 17, 2023, and that is the request.
Thank you. There's no one else in the room that probably wants to comment. I don't know if Dr. Boswell is on Zoom.
I did forward him the Zoom information last week. So.
Okay. Just checking, Dr. Boswell, if you happen to be online or a representative for Dr. Boswell. Doesn't sound like it. Okay, thank you. We had the motion to close the hearing after oral and written. Did we take the vote, though?
Not yet.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on to the resolution to suspend the rules requiring the Board of Supervisors to consider and vote on the proposed ordinance at 2 prior meetings.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please answer as your name is called.
Trelka?
No.
Hall?
No.
Little?
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item number 5, ordinance adoption, that the ordinance amending ordinance number 36 as amended the Blackhawk County, Iowa Agricultural Preservation Zoning Ordinance adopted February 2nd by adding subsection numbers 276 to section 6, rezoning certain property as described on the above request submitted by Dr. Boswell, and to consider the same for adoption, and if adopted, would be known as ordinance number 77-276. Mike, would you clarify this for us again, because it was unanimously denied?
Yeah, this, this would actually rezone the property if we pass it as written. So if you want to deny the rezoning, then you vote against this. If you want to pass it, it needs to be passed by a supermajority because the planning and zoning denied it.
And my vote will be to support that decision. So
And
just-
that, the simple
so then
majority,
we're
or
gonna-
even a 3-2 vote in favor of it would effectively ratify the planning and zoning decision.
So this is a resolution. What, comments or questions? Otherwise,
I'm sorry,
please.
somebody made the motion either to approve.
So moved.
So Tom, was that to approve or to deny?
A motion to approve or hold a road call. You could, either way, you can deny it, or the motion doesn't make any difference. It's a roll call.
I'll second it, just so we get it rolling.
Yeah, that's all it is. So a yes vote means you want the zoning. A no vote means you want to uphold the P and Z. Is that correct?
Yes,
Correct.
that's correct.
Okay.
So please answer as your name is called.
Hall,
No.
Little,
No.
Schwartz.
No.
Trelka,
No.
Leyland.
No,
Motion fails.
thank you. All right. Moving on to item 10, the work session. Discussion, consideration of all aspects of the fiscal year 24 Blackhawk County budget.
All right. Amanda, do you want to go ahead and go first, I think?
I know you, okay, I was going to say, I didn't make copies of your information. I know you sent out late last night, so,
Yeah.
but you're going to do a
I've
presentation.
got
so-
a, yep, if that's okay, and I did not.
That's
print
fine.
off copies either, so let me just, I can just share my screen, is that correct? Sure. Okay. Okay, can everyone see that all right?
Yes.
All right, so yes, I sent a late email last night, just following up from the discussions that we had last time with regard to the analysis, or that market analysis that we look at each year with the department heads, and then also touching on some of the internal equity adjustments that I had recommended. And so just an opportunity to present this and to get and receive feedback, if any, or any questions. So first thing here is the internal equity adjustments. So we have our superintendent of maintenance, payroll, county manager, and the payroll specialist. There are 2 payroll specialists and 1 of the other roles there. You can see here that starting with the superintendent of maintenance, this is currently graded as a GS20, as it is a department head position. And last week I talked about that position is very under market. When we looked at the data last week, it was about 85 or 86% to the market average, and this person is topped out. They are beyond that 4th quartile, so they are about $88,000, so there's really no room for them to go. What happens with that, with our merit increases only going through the 4th quartile, this individual no longer gets merit increases, so they just move further and further away from that market average. So you can see from the different job titles here, we have clinics manager, disease surveillance investigations manager, election manager, financial management supervisor, that's a treasurer's position, motor vehicle operations manager, treasurer, and then road maintenance superintendent, that's engineering. So I feel that within this job classification, the head of maintenance is not really in the same scope. And therefore I'm recommending that it move to a GS25, which would be just a pay grade below the HR director. This is similar structures to what we see in other counties and cities and public sector with regards to facilities. So The next one for internal equity, payroll accounting manager. So this is in the auditor's office here. And I don't necessarily have market data on this one. That will come with the classification and compensation study. So this is really more purely from an internal equity discussion. But again, this position, there are 3 managers in the auditor's office currently. This one is the lowest, the highest being the systems real estate tax manager. Then we have the election manager that's at a GS 20. Again, looking at the scope of the roles that are listed here, our payroll and accounting manager is heavily involved with the budget process, the financial audit process, and of course payroll. And I feel that this is an opportunity to move this up closer to the systems and real estate tax manager within that office again for that internal equity argument. So this would be going up 3 pay grades as well. Lastly, the payroll specialist. This is the lowest full-time non-bargaining position here on our scale. It hasn't been reviewed in probably over a decade. It's about 6 pay grades below the HR specialist. We do work very closely with them. Although there is differences in type of autonomy and complexity of roles, they still have a very important role with regards to payroll and the different activities and financial activities throughout the year. So I am recommending, similar to the payroll manager and accounting manager, that this be moved up 3 pay grades as well to be more placed in a job classification that's more similar, such as that administrative aid 2. There is an accounting specialist that is a GS 11 that solely supports the health department. So I feel that moving this up a pay grade above that helps to kind of identify that this payroll specialist type role really supports a county-wide function. So just talking about the payroll adjustments here, I will talk about the facilities director or superintendent of maintenance with the other department heads, but in order to implement these changes, you can see at fiscal year 23 what their actual salaries are. With the fiscal year 24, that's the status quo where we do a 3% across the board plus whatever merit they're eligible for. One payroll specialist is already maxed out on merit, so therefore I'm putting forth a recommendation to move them up those 3 pay grades and relative to where they are in their current scale, which would result in about $5,000 for each of the payroll specialists and a $9,000 increase for the payroll and accounting manager. Okay, so department heads, that ranked below 90% of the market average. So this is what was asked to provide a cost analysis as to what it would look like if the 3 positions were moved into that 90% as opposed to being below the 90%. As you recall, the conservation director was about 85% to the market average with 6 years, almost 6 years in the role. HR director was 79% to the market average with about 2 years in the director role. And then the facilities director, which is something I'm asking that to be retitled to be more consistent with the department head titles, that is 86% to the market average with about 13 years in the role for the county. So here you can see these are all of our department heads. And this is what we looked at last week with fiscal year 23, where we are overall about 91% to the market average. And those areas in red are the ones that we were interested in addressing. Fiscal year 24 again shows status quo, where now that we have all the department heads on a merit scale, with the exception of consolidated communications, as their budget is a little bit different, they're eligible for those merit increases now. That was effective this fiscal year. So with a 3% across the board plus either a 3, 2, or 1 merit, you can see kind of where we expect them to move with fiscal year 24 wages. I did adjust the market by about 4% just to kind of have a target. I think that's relatively conservative. Last year we saw a lot of these counties and communities, a lot of our peers up there across the boards to 4.5%, 5%, or even higher. I anticipate that may come down a little bit this year. We stayed at 3% last year, so I think 4% is a moderate, adjustment. But there you can see, even with our merit increase, even with the 3% across the board, and the market moving by 4%, we're still lagging in those areas. So in order to move these individuals into a 90% or above, this would be the recommendation as to how we get there. I did take into account the experience with the county to try and help differentiate some of these recommendations. For example, with the facilities director or superintendent of maintenance, as well as the county engineer, which is not one that we discussed last time because they were at 92%. However, these two are our longest standing department heads currently at about 13 to 14 years of service right now. And I feel that they should be moved closer to that 97% of the market as compared to someone like myself who has 2 years as the HR director. You can see that additional dollar amount over the status quo. And again, this would be 4 adjustments for 4 department heads. This can be complemented with the classification and compensation study findings. So I would say these are rather conservative recommendations, and then let the experts and the consultants kind of bring in the other data. But when it comes to department heads, our market really pretty much heavily is the counties, the top 10 counties within our area. I don't think I should be compared to an HR director at a hospital, for example, or a manufacturing company, but it probably makes sense to compare this role across different counties, cities, and possibly school districts. So I would anticipate what we're going to find is not going to look a whole lot different when it comes to the department head level with the consultants, and I think there'll be a lot more data analysis with the non-bargaining roles that aren't department heads, I guess, if that kind of makes sense. So total is about $61,000 for the recommendations that bringing for you to consider. Just a couple other notes. We do have PDQs with the classification compensation study. Those are due next week to department heads for review and then due to HR the following week. Advisory committee meeting, we're starting to discuss about the market and as to like what kind of groups of job classifications we have throughout the county and where we want our study to go, I guess, or that survey to go. So we will be having a meeting likely next week or the following. And then I also wanted to touch on just the non-bargaining allocation for fiscal year 24. I had a couple board members ask, since we don't have the data right now to make any informed decisions across all non-bargaining classifications, but there's been an interest, what would be a reasonable allocation that the board could set aside to make those changes effective for fiscal year 24. I did a cost analysis for if non-bargaining ran about 7% below market and worked with Michelle on that, and we came up with about $150,000 potentially that not everybody may get, but as you see with the department heads, some I'm not recommending any changes because I feel that they are adequate, but there are some that are clearly misaligned to the market. I think we may see that with the non-bargaining as well. Some will be okay, some will be really good, and some will be really misaligned. So that was about $150,000, and I think Michelle also then took into account FICA and IPERS, and it might have been a little bit higher following that. So that's what I have for today.
Great. That's a lot of good information, but I said, yeah, we can dig into, because you did send all that electronically to us too.
Yep, and I can send this presentation too, if that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Any questions?
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. And you said that was 150,000?
That's
kind of the total.
what we
for-
thought we could start with as a pool if the board is interested in doing that.
Sure, okay.
So that, and the reason for that is because the classification study won't be done and back to you till around the 1st of July. So if this was a way that you could begin to maybe make those adjustments, not knowing what that total will be at that time, we just had to make a guess. But Amanda did a lot of research to come up with that, and it feels reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Whoops. I'm not going to be sorry I did that. Yep. Somewhere in here we have You have lots of handouts today for a lot of, today we're mostly touching on things that are general county supervision, so we don't have a department head that you've already heard from to review it. So we just have a number of them, and we're going to start out with the mental health patient advocate. This is a result, started actually in 2023, but this is the result of the state legislation that pulled the mental health services from counties. One requirement that counties were left with was that we do have to maintain a mental health patient advocate, and we do have someone in that role. And it's interesting because our county social services group is required to 100% pay for that person. So they reimburse us for all the activity, but we have to employ them. So when you look to the bottom of this, the net tax effect is zero. But I don't want to forget Jackie and the fact that the county has a responsibility to provide that position. So,
And that's only until maybe legislation changes and it becomes a county position.
who knows? Tomorrow, yesterday?
Yeah. Okay.
But that's what we have today.
But for now, that's good. Okay. And you've met with her too recently.
I have met with her, and yes, so it's nice to interact with people and know she's a real person here, so that was a good thing.
Well, I just have a question.
Yeah.
When some of those expenses need to change, who authorizes those, like, training and education and?
It's interesting. I spoke with Jackie and Karen Dowell at County Social Services because Jackie had requested a few things, but since County Social Services is required to fund them, I felt like they needed to actually agree that they're going to pay for them. So what's been different the last couple of years is due to COVID and the way the courts were being handled, Jackie was doing no traveling and no training. But now that COVID's kind of lifting and things are getting back to some kind of new normal, she feels that would happen again. So I spoke with Karen, and for example, the advocate mileage, that's typical of what they're paying other mental health advocates in the area. So we worked, and the same with the training budget. Karen actually suggested providing a cell phone to Jackie. The others have them. So we did work with our health department, who also has a cell phone plan, and we plan to add Jackie to that plan starting in July. So there's a $500 reimbursement that runs through here for county social services. They use our postage, and they reimburse us for long distance. So there's a couple other little items in here that are very insignificant, but this is primarily the budget for Jackie.
So then County Social Services approves whatever her budget is before you see it?
Well, I wouldn't call it a formal process, but informally Karen did.
Okay.
Yes. So that's how we approached it this time. Because she's very, I guess, careful because she says that's a county employee and a county budget. But on the other hand, if she's holding the purse strings, I need her.
Yeah.
to
And I
agree.
remember, I think when they started this, that was difficult for us because this person was responsible to the board and we didn't have any interaction with that person or involvement with
Yeah,
that person.
it is a unique
Does seem to be.
arrangement. Still, probably more to come on that when I have a little more time to think about it.
Yeah. Well, it's good. It's got two of you looking at it then.
Yes, we're
Two
trying.
departments, So that's
So,
great.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next section we're going to look at is our board agencies, maybe, if I can get this to behave. The only revenue we have in here is revenue from our cost allocation reports, and that's mostly for DHS and some other departments that will reimburse for that. Then these are mostly routine things, unique things that the county provides. And if you want more details on all the list of activities, I'll have to get into those. CJIS is one of them that's covered under here, Criminal Justice Information Systems. And I'm trying to think what other things. The cost allocation report services, and there's some general expenses for the Board of Supervisors staff. I think our training comes out of this activity for me. As I have a professional license, I'm required to get 40 hours of continuing education every year. So that's in here. Those are the largest things that are under here.
Like professional services, is that to the professional services to the board?
Nope, that is for the preparation of that cost allocation report.
Oh.
We hire a company called, I think it's Cost Advisory Services, Inc., if I have that name right. There's been a lot of new things to learn in these. This has been a project to go through all these. So that's what we use that for. I'm forgetting some things that are in the obligation to agencies, and I
mean, as far as what those are?
yes, because there's so many of them. Let's see. Oh, we paid for some of the ARPA things out of here, the space study. Audit fee comes out of there. Let's see what else we got. It's just miscellaneous things like that.
Okay. And the largest item in the,
And if I can provide a detailed list if you want one later.
yeah, that might be helpful just
Yeah,
to see
because
what's in it ourselves.
right, yeah. This
Since it's over 300,000.
yeah, that's a big bill.
Yeah.
Anything else for that section? Let's go to, the next thing you should have in your packet is the Rural Basic Fund.
I think board agencies was next, but we'll do.
Oh, I am in board agencies, Rural Basic, I hope, or do you have?
Yep, board agencies, rural basic.
Okay,
Yep.
yep. So this is where we fund our planning and zoning activities, so the building permits revenue. I did reach out to the City Waterloo staff that actually staffs this for us. We did increase building permits. We're using just the 5-year average. Building permits are very difficult to estimate. It's difficult to know who's going to build what when, but so that is how we increased that. The 20,000 was using the 5-year average. Other things in here, the professional services is primarily what we pay the City of Waterloo for those planning and zoning services.
Okay.
And we do have the library contracts in here, and I did increase that by the 10% that they requested, the 17,000 at this point. I think the obligations for agencies is the North Iowa Response Group primarily, and then the Disaster Public Services, that is our EMA, Emergency Management Agency contribution today, which may be changing, but that's what we have today. So that's everything that we pay for from the board agencies and the rural levy.
I know last year we included some funding for a couple of the watershed management authorities that we're in. I'm wondering.
There are
Is
dues.
that in the obligation agencies?
Yeah,
or-
I think that's also part of that obligations. Yes. Yeah.
And instantly there's they still need paid for the Middle Cedar River one. I'll
Okay.
connect you on that.
If you would, because
Yes.
that probably means I need an invoice if they haven't.
Yeah.
I did run across, the first time I was going through these, I did find a few agencies we hadn't paid and tried to work on them, but I must have missed that one. So,
All right.
yeah, if you would send that to me,
Yep.
we'll get it taken care of. Anything else on this activity that you would like to talk about? All right, we will move on to, this is general county supervision. And here's the general fund. Again, this is kind of a catch-all of a lot of miscellaneous things. Intercog dues are in here, I know, a few things like that. Board expenses. The postage looks like a large number, but that's pretty much countywide postage. I increased it slightly because there has been a 5% rate increase. I did not increase it 5% because we haven't been needing the full amount, so hopefully that'll be good enough. But I thought we should probably increase it some. Oops, went back too fast. We do put in here $125,000 to pay for damages that are insurance deductible, and that would be for property insurance primarily.
That's been adequate, so we just leave it as is, 'cause it seems like
It seems to be working right now, yes.
we had quite a few.
I'm trying to remember what's in professional services. I'm gonna have to send you the detailed list of that too, but there were things in there that I felt needed to increase, and right now I am sorry, I'm drawing a blank about what those all are. You know what? That probably does include collective bargaining. I'm used to having a separate line for legal expense. Yes, I did increase, yes, that is where we pay a lot of legal expense for negotiations and just other services, outside legal services that the board needs. I did not increase it for the total amount we'll need for negotiations because I'm hopeful that there's some room in there. And of course, that changes every year. You never know what kind of claims might be filed where we might need it, but I'm hoping that we've covered everything we need. Thank you for reminding me of that, Amanda, because I did forget that.
So for the most part, that total is probably reflective of that.
It
more
should,
than
it should
anything
be,
else.
yes.
Or-
Yeah. I think that we have paid between 25 and 30,000 for negotiations historically, so I'm hopeful we'll remain within that range. Looks like that's it for that activity. Anything else for that one? Okay, if we're done with that one, we will go on to, this is still general county supervision, but these are items eligible for general supplemental levies, so we have to account for them separately. There's a lot of just expenses and reimbursements for the court system in there. And then this is also where we have unemployment, our liability insurance premiums, and you'll notice I am recommending a substantial increase there. We have, if you look at the amended 23 budget for that line, we only budgeted 250,000. That line had not been increased for a couple of years. This year, we've paid 330,000 so far this particular year, and they are forecasting for this one, I think a 6% increase. Well, by the time I put in the 6% from what we're actually paying to get where we need to go, that's likely to be that $105,000 increase. Insurance is just tough thing right now. And honestly, the next line that says insurance for equipment or real estate, I took out because I do not know what that was for. And it was budgeted, but nothing's been spent from it, so I just took it back out. The next line is really our property insurance, not only vehicle. And I also increased that because they're seeing 17% increases in the market for that type of insurance. So we also, if you can also see what we paid, 183,000 so far this year is more than what was budgeted. So I'm trying to pick that up plus forecast the future increase. So that's a substantial increase there too. And some amount of professional services. I'll have to look those up. There are so many. There's probably 50 pages of activities that go with these. So I'm sorry I'm being confused, but by next year I will remember them all better.
From the professional services, that 42,000?
Yes, that's what
That many? Oh, really?
they're not just that one. I mean, all these that
you
I'm
mean-
showing you today,
okay.
They all just kind of
Categories are
blend
large.
together in my head. Yes. So unfortunately, this activity does have a substantial increase, and it's really due to insurance. I think we've been under budgeted on insurance, and well, I'm not sure there's fund balance to use for that. But obviously, when we get to setting tax rates, we could potentially choose to use reserves should you want to. But I think we need to get the expense right or close. As you know, our budget, we're not just setting a rate, we're also setting the maximum amount we can spend by program, so I want to get those reflected in there. That should hopefully help us avoid large budget amendments for those types of things, would be my goal.
We have to do that maximum levy. It is for general, supplemental, and basic.
It is,
So,
correct.
Both areas.
Yep. That service is not included in that. Today, I mean, there's a bill being debated today that really does crazy things, combines supplemental and general basic and all kinds of things, so hopefully I think hopefully it doesn't go far, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Don't know yet.
Especially they'd clean their own house first.
Yeah.
It sure is easier to clean other people's, isn't it? At least at the
We're
state
doing wrong.
level.
Yeah.
So the next one we're looking at is I should go up here. The general county supervision again. Wait, did I already do that one? We've got so many activities. Yeah, I think we've done that one. I've got that in here twice. And supplemental. So I think we're now getting down to the rural fund, right? Mm-hmm. Which is so little as to be not very meaningful, but I threw it in here because we do have expenses. This is something we're required to provide. This is per diems for your township trustees, so $550, very, very small. But anyway, that is what we have, and I think that's everything I have to discuss with you today, unless you have things you would like to talk about. I would say that Thursday, I think we'll be able to get an overall look at the budget, and depending on if you're ready to, I would hope we could set the date for a maximum hearing levy that day, potentially. And maybe not. We might just want to review items and maybe set that date next Tuesday, but.
You're kind of leaving it up to us to, after we hear the review, if we're ready. to
Exactly.
do it.
So if you're not ready, we can wait a few days. Yep. But I think, and this gets us through most of the tax-funded funds. There are things, we've covered debt service just very briefly, and we can review that again. We haven't necessarily talked about capital funds or things like that, but they don't impact the taxes at this point.
Any questions or any comments, anything specifically we want to make sure is reviewed on Thursday?
Yeah, or any directions?
I'm no accountant, but tabulating the running numbers, we're looking at a double-digit increase.
Expense side only, that may be true, but we do have a little good news in the revenue side that really helps with that issue. I don't think it will, well, that all would depend on consolidated dispatch. If we had to pick up consolidated dispatch, that would most definitely be. And the other thing that I would mention is we could actually be bumping into our $3.50 basic limit if we were to do that. So unfortunately, that throws another wrinkle into that conversation.
Well, we kind of talked about having to have some time to plan for that, though.
Right.
I mean, it was kind
Yes.
of like we needed to do that, so.
Yeah, with all these bills at the state legislature, it's, I think we need that time to plan for that to make sure it would all work.
Sure. Well, it sounds like then what your rollout will be, I guess, is the plan for the day on Thursday and possibly the decision on the maximum levy if we wish to.
Or other directions if there's other things you want.
Sure,
in or out.
after we hear it, we
Yeah.
might determine some other information needed for Tuesday or something.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, seeing the overall picture is the next step, and then we dive back into where we need to.
Yep. Sounds good.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Any reports or information from the board? Hearing none. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Meeting is adjourned. Be efficient.